Welcome to the Mind Mastering Podcast with your host, Asnate. Let's explore the path to mastering our minds on and off the athletic field. Hello, everyone. I am so happy to introduce you to one of my favorite coaches I played with, not with, for Jenna. And I call her Jenny. And I think I would want to start with just thanking you for being such a supportive coach when I had my the most challenging years, I would say, and I truly appreciate your genuine care. And I think we will touch base on this like player coach relationship later as we speak. But you helped me a lot, and maybe I haven't told you that much or I haven't had a chance or but I really appreciate you and yeah, you've been on my mind since I've met you and I'm really happy that we can still keep in touch and you played a big role in my experience at Fordham. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me, Asnate. I'm very proud to be here now and being interviewed by you and on your podcast. And you get emotional because you are somebody that's very near and dear to my heart. And in my coaching experience, somebody that I'm still to this day very close to and think of very often. And I was so fortunate to not just have you be a big part of my life as well, but to be able to go to Latvia and meet your family and see where you're from and be on that journey with you. And that's kind of why I love what I do is the relationships that carry on. And you're a perfect example of that. So, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. And you know, like sometimes I think about it that when I felt at my lowest at Fordham, I tend to push away people or and I know I had my ups and downs, but just know that you helped, I would say, the most when I was there. And yeah, you see how this relationship carries over, that it means a lot to me. So, and shout out to everyone else actually at Fordham. I appreciate every single coach and shout out to Coach Ange for recruiting me, even though it was maybe not the way I would expect my experience to go, but I'm really happy about everyone that I met there. So, Jenna, let's also congratulate you on a huge milestone. Soon to have your mini you. It's going to be life changing, but so deserving. You know, I think you're going to be um, the best mamas out there. And I'm happy for you. And for those who are listening, if you didn't catch, then Jenna is head coach right now at Rhode Island University College, but she was a coach assistant for Fordham University when I was playing there. And yes, so let's touch base a little bit on your journey, where everything started. Basketball. What age did you start to play, and how did you choose to become a coach?
So I started playing, I think, when I was 7. And I was definitely a little athlete and grew up in a sports family. And I loved basketball. I think it was something I was good at from the beginning. And um, I mean, when I think back to coaching, my grandfather was very influential in that, and my uncle,
Mhm.
both big football coaches. And um, I it kind of ran in my blood. But I went to college for sport management and really got some great experience doing some other things in sports business, sports marketing, sports organization, and kind of everything but coaching, to realize that once I graduated, I could be involved with basketball in a coaching capacity and more administrative role as well. And so I'm grateful for my undergrad experience, for doing those internships, because ultimately it led me to realize, oh, I maybe I could tap into the coaching world a little I was an assistant high school coach and AAU coach, and then I just jumped to Fordham. It was kind of a really big leap of faith for me because I'm a small town, more suburban kid, and going to New York City, even though it wasn't that far, it was like 3.5, 4 hours, was very out of the norm for me.
Mhm.
Moving to the Bronx and not knowing anybody, and not knowing anybody I worked with, and it changed my life forever because it placed me where I am today, and gave me the experience to be the head coach that I am today and for my athletes. And uh, so I'm very grateful for it. But it was, I think it was doing all the little things to check off my list to realize trial and error of what I liked and what I didn't like. And my experience at Fordham, and I was 22 or 23 years old, and I was the administrative assistant, and then I was the director of operations, and I got to do a lot of things, not just coaching on the court, but
Mhm.
being with the team. And that it eventually led me to, wow, I want to be an assistant. And so I think all those experiences really led me to being a career as a head basketball coach.
Mhm. You have siblings. You have twin sister. Were you uh, only going into sports, or was anyone else into sports or basketball?
My family is very, very, like I said, my uncle was is Division I football coach, and now is still a Division III football coach. My sister liked sports, but not like me. We're very different. I was more of the sport route. And my brother, I have a little brother and sister. They're not little anymore, but they played sports, but not after college. So, um, but it's something that, again, has always kind of been a big part of my family background.
Mhm.
And I was a Division III athlete. And so I think, coming back to Division III is a big, is a big part of who I am too.
Mm. But you are also captain of the team, so not everyone is a captain of the team. What do you think were the strengths, or what helped you to earn that position to lead the team?
I think being a captain is really a big piece of that, is being able to really be all encompassing in the communication piece with your teammates, and being going to be very selfless. I remember in college, which is a long time ago now for me, but um, I think I did a really good job of getting along with the team. I brought a lot of humor as well, different side of me as a young one. Um, but being able to really look out for what's best for the team, be an extension of the coaching staff. I had a new coach my senior year in college, so that was a little challenging and difficult, but um, really being the best person for the best interests of my team.
Selfless.
Selfless, yes.
Nice. Okay, did you play any other sports or just basketball? Because you mentioned football, your uncle, your grandfather. So, did they introduce you to basketball or football also?
I grew up, I wanted to play football very badly, but my mom would not let me. She actually made me try cheerleading, which I was not happy about. There's pictures of that to prove it. I thought I
Mm,
wanted to
those
try.
pictures.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I wanted to try ice hockey, but that interfered with basketball because my dad's a big hockey guy.
Mm,
But I did. I played baseball with the boys until I got not bullied, but I was getting picked on a little. So I switched to softball a little bit.
mhm,
I played soccer in high school, and I ran track. So I tried to do a little bit of everything. I loved doing anything. I was always outside as a kid. But basketball was my favorite.
mm. I think it's good to try different sports because then you just can see if you're better in one than other. But you chose basketball because it was just most interesting, or you were actually better at it compared to other sports?
I think I liked the fast pace. I was better at it. I wish I tried, it's funny you say that because I wish I tried like lacrosse. I almost did. Um, there's some sports you never try. You never know if you'd be good. Um, I was good for my like in my town, like or like where I grew up.
Mhm.
I wasn't as good as you, so um, you were very good.
If I was maybe from Rhode Island, then maybe I wouldn't be where I am today. Like in Latvia, it's so much easier to like get the attention and get to like national level because we are such a small country. But if I would be in the States, I possibly wouldn't
But
be.
to play at a Division 1 level and is a and Katie too. Katie played at Bryant. She's like smaller than me. She's a little thing. Got to really excel. So, but again, I'm very grateful. I think my experiences all happened for a reason and placed me where I am today, even the lowest of moments or the highest,
Mhm.
just like you.
Yeah, yeah. And so the switch from D1 assistant coach coming to D3 as a head coach, was it a difficult decision? And how, like, what are the takeaways from this experience?
I think the biggest takeaway from that is I was at Fordham for 7 years, and my dad, I'm a big family person, and I wasn't with my family. I worked a lot, and I loved what I did, and I'm grateful for all of it. But I came to a point, I was there for a long time, and I was in three different positions. And I was a director of operations for 3 years,
Mhm,
and I was an assistant coach for 3 years. And I think that was, I'm a very loyal person, and I put in that time. I think my first year as an assistant, I was very passive and a little nervous, even though I don't I mean, most people wouldn't see me as that, but I was. I was nervous and I felt like unsure of myself. And each year you get more and more comfortable. And by the time I was about to turn 30 years old, and I wanted more. I wanted more for myself as far as being close to family. And I think there comes a point where I think biggest takeaway is never to be complacent, and to really challenge yourself. Because like I said, 7 years is a long time,
mhm,
especially when you're not. My father always said, "Are you working to live? Or are you living to work?"
mhm,
And I was never home for Thanksgiving or holidays, and I'm very very close to my family, and I was anxious to make that move and turn 30 and maybe settle down and look to be somewhere more permanently. And so I made that jump, and it was difficult because I didn't have a job locked in place. I think most people think I did, and that was I think the biggest leap of faith I ever took was taking the job at Fordham and
mhm,
moving to the Bronx by myself. And the second biggest leap of faith I ever took was leaving Fordham to find my next path.
mhm,
And that's very unlike me too, because I'm very rigid. And
mhm,
it was the scariest moment of my life. Like I said, I just turned 30, and I had no idea what I was going to do. I wanted to continue coaching, but coaching is very hard. You can't guarantee a job, or who's going to hire you or what positions might open. Um, and so that was I think for me, that was what I tell people is you got to be able to take that leap of faith and trust your gut and know that, again, going back, it goes back to mental health. And you get, sometimes change is good. It's scary,
mhm.
but it really, like for me, the leap of faith, or the leap I took when I left Fordham, I grew so much in that year. And I I I would have never known that I could be a head coach if I didn't do that. I might never have been one. Um, so yeah, it was. When I think back on that year, it was probably the scariest year of my life, but it changed my life forever.
Mhm. And I think for good. Like, look at all the success you have had, like a championship team, culture, such good players. And so you have not only built like a winning team, but you also help to raise uh, athletes who have like achievements, not only one athlete, but like many athletes. And that speaks a lot. Like, you are doing something very well. So what do you think it is?
I do think a lot of what I learned as a coach, you know, I don't think it's from myself from playing when I was in college. I do credit most of my basketball knowledge and building culture and from the ground up to my time at Fordham and being there as long as I was, a credit to the staff and Coach Gately and, Coach Ange. Um, but I also think, like bringing in, I think the relationship piece and like when I first got there, we weren't very good. And I instilled really just the details of how to, what to do to win. And over time, I look now like you bring in the right pieces and good people. And, I'm definitely tough. I actually think back to a practice where because I can be tough.
Hmm.
And I yelled, and I remember I startled you, and you and I are really close. And I remember I can't do that to a Snate. She won't respond to that. And she was like, I remember you looked at me and you were like, Jenny, you can't do like, why are you doing that? And I've learned so much I've been there, this is my 7th year, which is so crazy how time goes by. But I think I came in my first year and I was like, I didn't really know what I was doing. Like, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I did and I didn't, right? I never really ran a practice at Fordham on my own, right? I
Hmm.
was an assistant. But I was so like, sometimes aggressive, like it as like you've seen before. But I've learned how to tailor how to get the most out of my ladies.
Hmm.
And I think, my job as a coach and why I love to coach is to stretch a kid, to get a little as a freshman and to stretch them and see them as a senior and all that they can accomplish and the confidence that they build. You know, look at you. You were a quiet little thing that didn't even like to read anything out loud, especially with learning English, your English. And then, like you're doing a podcast, and
Yeah.
that's the joy of coaching is to see you thrive,
Hmm.
by the time you're a senior. And right now to see where my program's at its height and to see, I have a young lady, Izzy, who's a 5th year student, and she has done miles in her development as an athlete, but as a person and her mental health, her physical health, her it's just everything.
Hmm.
Um, and that's the joy of it all.
Mm. And I think sometimes we underestimate the importance of coach in players' life. Like, you are such a significant person in their life. You can affect them so much because think about how much time you spend together and they learn from you, and you are like a guide in life, like through ups and downs. And that's why it's what I learned in psychology and in mental training, that relationship with the coach, like professional relationship, is really important. But the coach has to be supportive and build that trust and be like a teacher. Okay, of course, not always you're gonna say good job if it's not a good job, but you can like teach. And if there's a mistake or a setback, you just don't blame them, but you actually like show them how to get better. And so, yeah, you, I think, are in the right path. As you mentioned, you chose your path. I think you're on the right track. And I'm happy about that.
Thank you. And I always, it's what you just said really resonates with me because I do think that there's times where the hardest thing in coaching is that you have, so if you have, I have 14 student athletes, and am I giving all of those athletes the attention that they want or the praise that they need or the support that they need? And that's hard being one person. We don't have a coaching staff like Fordham where there's
8.
7 people or 8 people, and full time I have 3 part-time coaches who have other jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's true. It's hard. It's hard because I don't think I do a good job all the time, and I don't think I do give everyone the attention they need, and it is hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the challenge of coaching is you can always do better.
Yeah, but also no one is doing the best all the time. Like, regardless of their profession, there are good times, good days, bad days. And I think you are doing a great job. And that speaks of your achievements and your girls, ladies, as you said. And the most important thing, you are there for them. If they need you, they will come to you.
Yes,
Yeah.
hope
Uh,
so.
Talking about Fordham, when you said sometimes it brings, you know, not the worst out of you, but like some anger and stuff. Do you think sometimes being under like pressure or like mm, stress or some demands or expectations, it does forces you to like, be tougher or show the tougher side that you have? Everyone has, but in general, I'm thinking.
Um, yeah, I think that just I have that side of me anyways. I think I'm naturally like a tougher, more blue collar coach. Um, I think that stress you try when you come into work or you're 8 months pregnant and you don't feel good or you get outside factors in your life. Like I think over the last couple of years, I've really tried to, if I'm having a bad day, then I have to almost be calmer because I
Mhm.
don't want to take anything out on the girls because it's not their fault. Whereas a younger coach, I'd be like having a bad day or I'd feel some type of stress or anxiety and I would, you know, almost use it at practice, like rah, 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 right?
Mhm.
And that's not fair. And so I've realized, I could think of specific moments over the last 2 years where, I've had a bad day and it's nothing to do with my girls or my kids. And I just try and stay more quiet because it shouldn't affect them. But it's hard. It's like separating your two lives, right? But when you're the commander in charge and the teacher, you shouldn't let that affect your anyone that's in the room. So
Mhm.
I think it's a balance. I think it's hard at times, but I've tried as getting older, the older I get, to really not bring that to practice.
Mhm. And you mentioned you taught your team like details of what it takes to win. Can you mention like some things that you taught them, like what are important for a winning team?
Yeah, we actually talked about it. A lot of my girls have big aspirations in the next couple of weeks, and we tried to refocus and talk about those goals. One would be winning our fourth conference championship in a row, and then the next one, most they want to win a national championship, which is such a big goal.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked about how do you get there if that's what you want to do. What do we do to get there? And a couple of them are, number one, you got to be selfless. I think we have a very selfless team. We share the ball really, really well. We don't have one superstar. And that's a credit to our culture and what we've built. We have some kids that could really put up some big numbers, but you have to be selfless when you have a very deep team and we don't really have anybody playing over 30 minutes a game. So we share the ball really well. The next one would be sacrifice. What do you have to give up to be able to be really good and to be a national championship contender and have that in the forefront? And that's, maybe that's getting some extra free throws in and getting an extra workout in, giving up some time with friends, things like that. A lot about that. As a Division I athlete, you have to sacrifice so much, even way more than at our level, just because we're not traveling as much. Um, you know, um, some details, we talk about communication all the time. It's like a funny little detail that you probably remember. Like when you pass the ball, like calling names on passes, right?
Mhm.
We do
That's
that.
how I became A. Just
Oh, so it was
that's
easier for
not
teammates.
as yeah, so difficult.
I never called you A. But yes, that's funny. Yes, so like little details, calling names on passes. We played in the Final Four game and we were pressured the whole game. And one of the biggest details of the game was calling names on passes,
Yeah.
so that you were ready to catch the ball and you work together, a two-way communication. Um,
Mhm.
but a couple other details, big details would be, we talk about being, just all in and there for each other and leadership. And, I think this team we haven't, they like have a refuse to lose mentality, but what are they going to do when adversity hits and
Mhm.
we're down? Are they going to be in it together, and how they respond to officials,
Mhm.
how their body language and how they respond to coaching. Um, but it's a special group. But you got to, it's refocusing. It's mental health,
Mhm.
taking care of their mental health and making sure. We talked a lot about that. In this next month, I told them, I'll be 8 months pregnant very soon, and then I'll be 9 months pregnant. There's going to be days where I got to take care of myself a little bit more. There's got to be days where they've got tons of homework and they've got a lot of pressure, of the tournament and things coming their way. And so getting ahead of it so that their mental health is not at stake in the big moments. They got to make sure they're organized and prioritizing their time. Um, and that's a big thing. We give out mental health days. We want to make sure that they're feeling their best.
Mhm.
Um, and that's a big thing. Feeling confident, feeling their best. I think a big piece with that too is transparency. If you're not feeling your best, you got to be able to tell me,
Mhm.
especially me, because I'm the full-time coach there. We have our assistants and they're amazing, but you got to be able to let people know. I talk to my girls a lot about being vulnerable, because we're on the same team. But if you're not able to say, Coach, I'm having a terrible day or something's going on in my life, well, then how can I help you? I almost can make it worse if I'm tough on you and I don't know,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's like if they didn't know I was pregnant and they don't help me out a little bit too, right?
Yeah.
So we try and be very open and honest about. I would like my girls and continue coaching for them to be very open about how they're feeling, what they're, even if they're injured. If you're injured, I don't want you running a million sprints,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes sometimes athletes are very hesitant to tell their head coach things, but if you think about it, we're on the same team.
Mhm.
And I can make it worse or I can make it better,
Yeah.
right? I wish I knew that as an athlete, but I never thought of it like that.
But maybe they are afraid of like, judgment or suck it up, move on.
Right. Right, you're right. And I think that is the case, and that's why I think sometimes I was just thinking about this the other day. We had one player, she had a little bit of an anxiety attack in at practice, and I didn't know where it came from. It was nothing to do with the coaches, I don't think. It was
Mhm.
just the environment, and I think she thought she had a bad practice. And I got to remind my girls that if you think you have a bad practice, it doesn't mean that I think you had a bad practice,
Mhm.
right? So I'm a culprit of that. I always think the worst. I always think, oh my God, they must think I did poorly or I didn't do well on this when I was when I was younger.
Mhm.
But I have a player actually. She works with Stu.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and she's become so confident in a year in herself. But I always say, don't think that I think you did something wrong. So now, if she thinks she did something wrong or she's not doing well, she'll come to me and she'll say, do you think, that I didn't play well in this game? And I'll say, no, I just didn't play you a lot because of the lineups and the mismatches or whatever. So I think being very transparent and being able to be open with your leader,
Mhm.
even though you're afraid, is important.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I also tell athletes that I work with, let's say if you are upset about like game time, or you're not feeling, you think that coach is upset about you or doesn't like you, then first thing you can do is actually get yourself together and go talk. Say, hey coach, like, is there anything I can do to improve? Like, what do I need to do to gain my game time, for example, or how can I improve? Yeah, it's important. Thanks for telling those details. You definitely don't seem like someone who would give up. Um, what drives you? Maybe in different areas of life. You don't have to talk only about basketball, but you can definitely talk about basketball. But basically, what drives you? What motivates you to not give up, to keep going?
I think I've always been wired to be very like hardworking. Nothing really came natural to me. Like I wasn't always like the best in school or even in basketball. Um, and I was always very driven. I think I was, in a sense, if I could look back, too hard on myself.
Mhm.
Growing up, my twin sister was a little bit more carefree. I was very like, oh my God, we're going to be late. And I didn't do my homework, like, so, and that, so that part of that is, I don't think that's a good thing. I think I've learned to stay more present. Um, However, I think in life you can always be improving. I think one thing I'm always trying to improve, because I'm a leader of young women and I'm going to be a mom, and I have to be a good wife and a good family member, and is working on how to be a better person for all those people,
Mm.
and so take away trying to win. How do I work on being a better person for my family and for my child and for my young ladies who my job is to impact them every day. And so I work with a life coach who I speak with like 2 times a week, and how to be more patient.
Mhm.
I'm lucky my wife is very patient and totally different from me in a lot of ways, and she's great, and she's going to be a great mom. And but how do I work on bettering myself? I'm always driven to try and be better, because i I think that it's not easy, especially when you have such influence. I think you always have to work on being better.
Mm.
But I'm driven to always, I think I've always been self-driven. um, I can't tell you that I ever really imagined having, you know, the success that my team has had. Um, I think I learned a lot from Fordham on how to bring in the right people, um, whether it's assistant coaches, um, or just recruits. Like, I have some young ladies on my team that I'd be lucky to coach for the rest of my life. They're such good people and they're such great basketball players, but like, I love being around them.
Mm. Yeah.
And it's my 7th year. and like I'll be coaching a lot longer than they'll be playing. But I mean, if you can have that, it never feels like I'm working. Never.
Mm,
I am very blessed to say that there's not a day that feels like I'm working
that's
because I love what I do.
yeah. That's the goal. I think would be for a lot of people
Hmm.
to find something that is your passion, and you can do it with the worry of, oh, I need to go to this job because I need to pay bills. Yeah. So you mentioned recruiting. I wanted to ask you, so what are the things you look for in athletes that you recruit? Like, what's important to build a team that you want to have?
Character is probably the most important. And that's tough because you get to know people recruiting, but at our level, not as much as it's not as deep as your level. Like I'm not taking a plane
Hmm.
and going to spend a lot of time in someone's home and with their family like I got to do with you. That was really amazing, and I tell people that I got to go to Latvia and meet your family. And when would I have gone to Eastern Europe? So that was that was amazing. But at our level, it's more phone calls and seeing them in person and talking to them in person. I recruit much more locally.
Hmm.
We're a state school, so it's much more the Northeast New England region, um, because we don't offer a lot of financial aid to out of state or especially international.
Hmm.
Um, but it would be character. I brought in some pretty talented players my first couple of years that just weren't on the same page as what we were trying to do. I want young ladies that are going to work to be great students just as much as they're going to be, work hard on the basketball court. Um, but when I talk about those kids that I would coach the rest of my life, you being one that we have a deep connection, you and I, um, they are just high character people that you want to be around.
When you went to Latvia, it was you went with Coach Gately to recruit Kata Kresliņa for Latvians listening. But that also, like, you see, what an effort to like fly to like Europe and meet the player you want them on your team. Like,
We were lucky enough to go fly to recruit Kate Kreslina and then also go spend time with your family in the process because they were so
listen to my
close.
sister's piano
Yes,
playing.
yes. Tried
Beautiful.
some Latvian after dinner drink.
Oh, balsams. Yes, balsams. You have it. I brought it. So character is important for athletes. Just building that relationship, like, because you can take the most talented players on your team, but if they are not buying into your vision, then it's just gonna be very tough to succeed.
Right. And recruiting is very challenging. I think it's it's challenging in the sense of you can't predict someone's future, right? And a lot of times I feel badly when it doesn't work out. If it doesn't work out for them, but all you can do is your best in the process, I think, of getting to know if that young lady is someone that aligns with your culture. And I think you got to really, I'm trying to be very particular about, well, if I'm recruiting Asnate, is she going to get along with the rest of my team? Does she fit in with who my team is?
Mhm.
Because every team is so different. That's another big one. Obviously you look for skill, try and bring in somebody that's better, potentially better than what you have so that they have an opportunity to play. And that's hard too. We don't offer scholarships. So you want to make sure you're bringing in somebody that's skilled, but also would be happy where you are because happiness drives everything, right? And you don't want someone to come just to play basketball. You want somebody to come that loves Rhode Island College and loves the team and what we're doing, and kind of that all-encompassing factor. So
Mhm.
it's not easy.
I hear you. What's important? Can you tell me a few things you find important in coach athlete relationship, like for it to be a good, teamwork?
Yeah, I think it's a tough question, but I think for me, the athletes that extend themselves a little more, like, as a coach, you try and really extend yourself a lot to these young ladies.
Mhm.
Um, and I think sometimes you don't get it back,
Mm.
right? And we're people too, and I'm sensitive. And I think of some of my girls that make the most impact on me. For example, like, hey coach, how are you doing? How are you feeling? You
Mm.
know, I think open having a two-way relationship is really important because I struggle too. This is probably the most this is one of the most will be one of the most memorable years of my life because I'm coaching a team that hasn't lost a game. I'm gonna knock on this table right now. With some of the best young ladies I'll ever coach in my life, and I'll be blessed to coach ones just like them, and I'll have many, many more. But just I've got 5 fifth-year girls that have returned with a belief that we could do something that no one thought we could do, and I've sacrificed a lot on their end. But I'm also bringing a child into the world at the same time, and they've been on the journey with me the whole time. And so they're part of my life, my family. They are, they love my family. My parents are at every game, my wife. And
Mhm.
so I think a big piece of the player coach relationship is is two-way, right? It's kind of like, think of the people that are most impactful in your life,
Mhm.
right? That you look up to, whether it's your parents or a coach. Checking in on each other is important. I think transparency is important, being open and honest. I think it's hard for freshmen to be able to be like, hey, coach, like, can we chat? Or how are you doing? Or, I think that's hard for young kids to do, but I think it's so important for them and for the coach, especially when you're in a job where, it's a hectic day and there's a lot of people, there's 15 of them,
Mhm.
and everyone's going through a lot. So I think, especially for you, you are influential in training and helping, young athletes, and mindset training is trying to get out of your comfort zone
Mhm.
because open communication is so important. Hey coach, can we get lunch? Or because I got to do a better job of that too. There's just so many to do it with.
Mhm.
Um,
How do you, as a coach, like make them feel that they can come to you and say, "Hey, coach, how are you doing?" What do you do to make them feel like they can talk to you?
I try and be myself.
Mhm.
Like I said, I think back on my journey and like my first year, I was definitely more rigid and not unapproachable, but like so focused. And
Mhm.
now, like, you try and do, I try and do some, whether it's an activity or, let's talk about the best part of our day, our week. But I try and be more myself, like when I'm not on the sidelines, like goofy,
Mhm.
um, more relaxed. But again, I can always do better. I'm sure I'm not this. I'm sure I'm more intimidating to the underclassmen than I am to the upperclassmen that know me a little bit better. You
Mhm.
know, um, yesterday I just was Saturday and we have a bye, and I went recruiting, and one of my upperclassmen just said, "Hey, coach, can I get lunch with you and come with you?" And I don't think a freshman would do that.
Mhm.
And so how do I foster an environment where I make that more comfortable? I have to do better at that.
But it's also time, like it's natural for them to come and it's a big change. And yeah, so you're, I think awareness that this helps. and this is what I need to do and I can do better, that's already good. Because some people don't even have awareness like that. So good job. Pressure off. What is the best advice that you have heard in life that maybe changed your mindset, or maybe learning lessons that you have experienced in life? Basically something that has happened or something you have heard that has helped you to grow.
Um, that's a tough question.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I think um, I think in the last couple of years, like I've done some work with this woman, like a life coach in a sense, like my own personal therapy,
Mhm.
and staying present, right, and is very hard in certain moments. Staying present and not letting. I tend to let the little things really affect me in my past. Like um, almost like don't sweat the small stuff,
Mm.
but easier said than done. Um, I would say, but really staying present. And what I mean by that is like if you're having a bad day or if someone's really affecting you, how do I okay, all of a sudden I'm in practice now. Why am I thinking about 10 other things,
Mm.
right? Or I'm home. I'm home, I'm in my kitchen and I'm having dinner. I can't think about basketball. I have to stay present.
Mm.
I'm about to have a baby. My mind's got to be on the baby and
Mhm.
not on 500 other things. And that's hard. That's hard for me. Um, I have a little sign in my computer in my office that says, like it says pres- present moment, logical mind, and logical mind meaning what do you, if something happens to you and you want to react,
Mhm.
you need to stay what is the logic? Where should your mind go in that moment? You should take a deep breath and not react,
Mhm.
right? Not being so reactionary.
Mhm.
Um, and so, again, that's a hard question, but I think life is so precious that you have to try and be present wherever you are.
Mhm. No, that's exactly right, and I got it what you said. So basically, the learning lesson has been to stay more present. And let's say if you're talking to me right now, then you're present. You try to not think about thousand other things that are happening in your life.
And usually I'm not good at that.
But
With
that's
you, it's
okay.
easy because I'm excited to be on the phone, but you're right.
But Stu, get his experience on mindfulness and meditation. He will help you. But I know what you mean, and I think everyone actually struggles with it to a certain degree, and it's just one of the life challenges that you need to work on to improve the quality of your life. And sometimes it can be what helps is meditations or focus trainings. I actually give like focus trainings to athletes. So let's say I will just tell you briefly because someone can hear it and use it, or even you. Like for 2 minutes, you can just find like a focus point. Regardless, let's say I have a candle in front of me. Just for 2 minutes, I'm looking at the candle. Whatever comes to my mind, other than candle, is fine. I just recognize it and then bring my focus back to the candle. You just That's how you train the mind to focus more. But also, like when you have a lot going on in your life, obviously it's stress that affects the attention span, and you can self-talk, you can help yourself. I'm good, I'm fine, I'm gonna figure it out, or postpone the worry about like basketball till the next day if you're at home and cooking dinner or whatever.
That's a good one. I'll try the candle.
I really enjoyed talking to you, Jenny, and thanks again for your time. and I need to disclose your really good talent that I miss, which is laughing and crying at the same time. So yeah, I miss those moments. But I think you have a great sense of humor, and I know you can be tough. And I think the balance of it is great. Like, yeah. So I'm happy about you and your milestones and coach of the year so many times, and basically your professional career success and family wise, personal. I'm happy you're on the right path.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you. I'm
hopefully
so
we can
proud of
see
you
each
too.
other soon.
I would love to.
Yeah,
I would love to, and I'm very proud of you.
thanks. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your time. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Okay, thank you. Bye bye. Ciao ciao.